Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Okay. All right, I'm gonna. I know, so that's why I told her she should come and so she can fix it. All right, I'm gonna gavel. Ready? All right, yay. Okay, I need a motion to open.
Motion to open the meeting.
Okay, so John opened and Bob seconded. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to, there's a couple of things that I wanted to tell you before we started, just so that everybody knew. And the first thing that I want everybody on the committee to know who's a town meeting member is that we are going to be using the electronic voting at town meeting during this special. But it's not going to count. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing both the regular way that we normally do it, but we're going to be using the electronic at the same time, just so we can work out any bugs and everything before it goes live. So we're going to be getting those. We'll use them. I just wanted to kind of make sure that everybody knew that was happening, but it's not going to be the official way that we do it. It's just that way the group who is working on policies and everything will kind of get an idea of where the problems are going to be so they can come up with a policy before we actually have to go live. So that's the second thing. That was the first thing. Okay. The next thing I wanted to tell you, well, we can save that one, all right, is the Finance Committee representative on the school building. So I'm going to read you an email. It came up that we don't have, because Rick Hill was kind of like our representative on the school building committee. It came up that maybe we needed a new one. So I just wanted to set the record straight so we all knew that. In regards to the building committee, the seat is not specific for a finance committee member. It is actually states a local budget official or member of local finance committee, and Mike has appointed Rick Hill as the financial advisor. So what I did was I asked Rick if he was going to stay on the committee, even though he's no longer part of the finance committee, and he said yes, he's staying on the building committee. And then I asked him if he would be willing to keep this committee up to date, and he said that he will either come in person to keep us up to date, or he will send us letters so that we will all know what's going on at all times. Okay, so that's where that stands. The next thing I wanted to let you guys know is that the annual Mass Municipal meeting is going to be in January, and we'll be sending out more information about the dates and everything. If you're new to the committee and you think you're going to be spending your next 9 years here, I strongly recommend that you go, because it really kind of tells you what your role is, and it gives you a lot of information, and it's really a nice way for you to kind of learn what's going on. All right, finally. What?
At that convention they do in town?
I don't think it's the convention. Okay, and then I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we now have a new warrant. It has a date on it. Make sure that we are using the ones with the date so that we all are using the right ones. Only a few numbers have changed slightly, and all the changes are in red. Okay, so everybody has one of these, right? I didn't miss anybody. Okay, then let's move on to the articles. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to vote on these things. Okay, let's start. Article 2.
Motion first?
Yeah, does anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, a motion to approve for $6,393.95. Good discussion, I guess.
Okay, so John said, he said the motion, and Joe, did you get Joe as the, okay, and Joe was the second. Okay, is there any discussion? Peter?
I just have one question. I was wondering, wanted to potentially make a motion that that money be taken from free cash, whereas there is money pending. I would have, why? Free cash from the Finance Committee?
We don't have free
No,
cash.
we don't have free cash.
I thought there was 100 and something left.
That's a different, that's, yeah, that's,
A contingency. Okay, all right, so that's,
yeah.
then that's fine, thank you.
Okay.
I think he explained, I think he said there was there's enough money in the levy because of the new new construction, whatever they call it.
We also mentioned there was like 900,000 in free cash available, so.
But he also
that's-
said that it hadn't
But that's
been
why we were,
certified, and he wasn't sure when it was going to be certified.
Just a point of information on that. It's not free cash, it's the levy, because it's a more assessed value, so it's tax money, it's not free cash, for whatever that's worth.
In other words, we're not borrowing it.
Becomes
We're
free
not gonna
cash next
borrow
year.
it.
If we don't use any of it this year, it becomes free cash next year.
Okay, anybody else? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Number 3.
Motion to recommend the sum of $282,217 for Article 3 supplemental year 2016 budgets.
Who seconded? Bob. Bob seconded. Okay, any discussion?
Sure, it's $282,217 for supplemental fiscal budgets for 2016 department budgets. I didn't really explain that right, but.
Okay, no discussion? Want to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Peter. Peter and Steve. Okay. Number 4, there's a little bit of a discussion about where the numbers are, and Jamie will be here shortly, so.
I don't know if she's coming. She
Okay.
sent
Wanna
her,
just put
she
it off
sent a,
until-
she sent a response.
Can I have a motion just to put it off till the end? I would like to vote on it after 8, so if she shows up and tells us those numbers, then we'll be able to just come right back
Motion
to
to
it.
approve this, motion to do this one last.
Yeah, okay, motion to do this one last? Okay, all in favor? Okay, we'll keep moving then. All right, what, sorry, wait a minute, we need to slow down because she
Sorry.
needs to take it. That's okay, because I'm going to read a little email, all right? Hopefully. Okay, so number 5, which is where we are now, is going to be, where's Bill's answer here? Shoot, I don't have it. It's going to be dismissed. Yeah. So the reason that it's going to be dismissed is because the money, I have to see if I get this right, so my husband will help me here.
The first 2 items that were listed, and Bill mentioned this at the last meeting. The first 2 that were listed,
Here it is. I've
they've
got it.
already borrowed the money, so you can't rescind it, they've already borrowed it. The third one was from free cash, so there's nothing to rescind because it was going to be coming from free cash, there was nothing to borrow, and they're just not doing the work. So they're going to dismiss Article 5 because nothing is there for us to do.
Yes.
What happens to the borrowed money?
Well, they borrowed it, so, I mean, they were approved to do this work.
They didn't do it, right?
They haven't used it
They
yet.
haven't done it yet.
They haven't used it yet. I am assuming that if
It's in
number
six.
6 does not pass, they'll just go ahead and use the money for the stuff that they were supposed to use, I'm assuming. Or it will sit there and we'll get it in, it will come back to us at another time. Okay, so,
But for Article 5, all right, this says move to dismiss, because she had put that in there, all right.
okay, so we don't have to do
Well-
anything, do we? Do we have to vote on moving to dismiss? Does anybody know?
I have a question.
Yes.
This,
I think within our thing, we
Wait a
said
minute, let-
the ones that are that were previously borrowed, but the monies were not used from the annual town meeting of May of 2010 and May of 2012. Why has it taken so long to decide to clean up the books on these things?
I couldn't answer that.
Why would
question for you.
anyone borrow money at a May annual town meeting and mechanical repair, PD mechanical room? What's PD, police
Police
department?
Department.
Okay, so 5 years ago,
We don't know when it was
So-
borrowed.
excuse me, please.
Let her finish.
These monies were borrowed at some point in time. But the work was asked, we were asked at the town meeting to provide the monies through a borrowing for these particular functions. Why is it now almost 2016 and we're just seeing this? That the monies were borrowed, but nothing was ever done?
I can't answer that question.
Tell me
and-
how that's good housekeeping.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't know the answer. And
So what happens to these monies? That would be my question. If you can't rescind them, they're there, they've been borrowed, they've both gone to the police department, what has the money been used for?
that is a very good question, and does anybody know? Go ahead, Ed.
No, they just borrowed the money, it's sitting in the treasury. They just haven't spent it on these particular articles. We can take this back at the annual town meeting, we rescind what's ever left and bring it back, like we do it on the other articles, but as of right now, this money is just sitting in the treasury in fund balance, earmarked for these particular items, that's just what it's doing. We're paying the interest for 5 years on that money, which is kind of silly, but...
So then we should deduct this year, through you, Madam Chairman, to the previous speaker, we should deduct at least $35,000 from the police department budget, because they've had an extra $35,000 in there since 2012.
And they're hoping to be able to use it on the next article. And if so the question will be moot if we pass the next article. And if we don't, then you have a very valid question, and we will pursue it.
6 years later, they figure out a need for the money, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thanks.
I got a quick question here.
Yes,
If they're going to move to dismiss it,
yes.
is that means the money is still there? Okay. Well, any vote we take here, the only thing we could do is agree to move to dismiss.
Right. And then, but we do know that that money is there, and that if we do not pass the next article, I will do due diligence and find out where it is, where it's being spent, and how can we get it back. So that will be kind of like my project for after town meeting, to make sure that we know what happened to that money. Because my understanding, and I could be wrong, but from what they said at the hearing, I thought that what they did was they stopped fixing these projects when they decided to go forward with the next one, and what they would do is just finish the projects that they had started. But I'm going to make sure that we keep track of this and not lose it if the next one does not pass. I will make sure that that will be my job, to make sure that I find out what happens to it, okay? All right, so do we have to make a motion to dismiss? We just have to kind of keep going, right?
I think we say no action was taken.
Okay, so no action was taken?
We say no action was taken.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go no action was taken. Oh, refer it,
Oh,
that's
what
right.
it was. That's what it is. I knew
All those in favor, can I have a motion to refer? What? Motion to refer? Okay, second. All in favor of referring? May I?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Completion of central dispatching at the police station.
Motion to approve $250,000 for the completion of the central dispatch at the police station.
Is there a second? Okay, Christine seconds. Okay, is there a discussion? Go ahead.
Is that 199,000 as far as the difference between the 250 and the 51,000?
Yes. So they're going to borrow the 199, and then they're going to use the articles that we just talked about to come up with the rest of the money. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Ed, you wanted to say something?
Oh, it's okay. My only concern is that the town manager did make public that $165,000 of this money would not be recouped in any potential new buildings. And my concern is that we need to get the maximum out of our money, and there was a lot of discussion about if we're doing stuff in bits and pieces. Although I support the new communication center, I think this time might not be wise to look at this particular article until after we really find out what's going forward with new buildings and things of that nature. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ed?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Peter. I'm not in favor of this article because everything's being done in piecemeal. We already passed part of this before, now this one. the fire station, the boiler, 400,000 a couple of years ago to fix a bunch of stuff. We don't even know where this is going, a new building, blah, blah, blah. I think we should wait until they have a more definitive plan on what they want to do before we go ahead and drop 500 grand on this project. That's just how I feel.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
John?
Well, yeah, I agree. When they said they were going to have 165,000 in sunk costs, and my concern is, we've been told even when we passed this a couple of years ago, that the new stuff, the new equipment would be portable. I'm only guessing, but they told us if in the Springtown meeting they approved the building, a new safety building and so forth, and you could have it done in 18 months. Here's my concern. In a couple of years, when they go to do this, they're going to tell you, well, we can't really take that out because you got to have dispatch operating until there's a cutover to the new building. And with all the new technology, we should go and buy new equipment and so forth. And I would say, wait. My opinion, I think we should wait. It's been 2 years. They were underestimated by over a half. And now they're coming back for this, and they're telling us that a good portion of this will be sunk into the old building. And my concern, like I said, very frankly, I don't think they'll be able to transfer it unless, what are they going to do? Piecemeal? They're going to take one station over, and then the second station, and then a third station over. In the meantime, you're not going to be operating at your optimum, or you're not going to have the dispatch available. So, I mean, they've done it for 2 years now without it, so I'd be hesitant to go forward with it.
Ed?
Part of this was the microwave to get some of the dead spots taken care of, but if we approve Article 4, I believe that will help out with some of that problem and get us past the next couple of years till they decide what we're going to do with this whole dispatch thing and all this new technology. So I'm not in favor of this article.
Okay, so the motion on the table is for approval. All in favor of approval, say yes. Raise your hands. All against? Raise your hands. Okay, unanimous.
Is that unanimous?
So the motion failed. Okay, Article 7, Muddy Pond.
Motion to approve $1,825,000 for the Muddy Pond project.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, John Rock. Okay, any discussion? Okay, the motion has been made. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so we're flying. Good. All right. Article 8, rescind Article 28 of the 2013 annual town meeting, rehab exterior of the railroad station.
Motion to rescind Article 28, rehab.
Okay. Any discussion?
Second.
Motion to rescind Article 28 of the 2013 annual town meeting for the rehab.
Who seconded that?
Who seconded? Steve did.
Yeah,
too.
second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so that- going good. All right, now comes the toughies. Okay, Article 9.
Motion to approve $350,000 for the purchase of the railroad station.
Is there a second? John Rock, okay. Is there a discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Steve.
I'd love to own the building, but I don't think it's worth $350,000 in the shape it's in. I'm looking at, between fixing it up and buying it, it's going to be well over $1 million. I just don't think the MWRA can get that kind of money for the building. I think we're crazy to pay that kind of money.
Okay,
Joe, next.
Joe, you're next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Peter then. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're sorry, wrong hand. Okay, sorry. Dr. Camacho.
Of borrowing?
From the CPC is going to borrow it.
That's what I don't understand. How does the Community Preservation Committee have a right to borrow?
How do they have a right?
What fiscal autonomy do they have to issue, or,
It's part of the Community Preservation Act, they can borrow.
but how do we know that they'll ever have the monies to repay the borrowing? What the backup?
The
It's-
fund.
It's
Well,
the
if the
fund.
CPC fund does not continue to be profitable, or the legislature cuts the amount of monies that's distributed to cities and towns, how might we repay the borrowing? I think it's a very poor idea to allow the CPC to borrow anything.
And I did ask, and we will have their budget for how much money is in the fund before this goes to town meeting, because I did request that, because I, too, want to make sure that they are capable of repaying it. But I was informed at the meeting, at the public hearing, that they have 2.9 million in the fund.
Now, does the 2.5 million, Madam Chairman, also include the fact that we never went forward with the monies that we were going to use for the Swan Tavern project?
See, I do not know that because I am not on the CPC, but I did request their budget with every money that they've borrowed up to this point and all the money that is in there, and I was informed that I will get that. So I do not have it right
So
now.
how many borrowings has the CPC made?
I have no idea.
I
None.
can't. They've never borrowed anything?
The
No,
C-
they've borrowed.
They've
The
got a whole-
CPC does not borrow. This authorized the town to borrow the money to be repaid by the CPC.
And that's how they presented it the other night. They were recommending the town purchase it. For the record, I opposed it, and I had made mention to exactly what you're saying, that they have several projects pending as we speak, and they had no real plans to do anything with this building other than to hand it over to the town, whether it be the Board of Selectmen, whoever. So CPC was adamant and pretty clear on the fact that they were not buying it, they were just recommending it. In fact, Mr. Kremens said that 3 or 4 times, that they were only recommending it to the town to purchase this property. But they have several properties that was brought up the night before with the Board of Selectmen, bringing it to the town manager, who was pretty clear saying that they couldn't oversee any of these projects that needed to be addressed. So for that reason alone, I'm opposed to it, even though I like the building.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a borrowing, because we got a 10-year interest-free loan from the state. And we're going to pay cash $35,000 a year for 10 years out of CPC dollars. So I don't think this is a borrowing like a bond. It's be my understanding, we're going to pay cash for 10 years in a row, $35,000 a year out of the CPC fund. This isn't like the Glen Echo, we're going to borrow, I don't know, X amount of millions of dollars, whatever it was. This is $35,000 a year for 10 years out of the cash collected every year by the CPC dollars.
John?
It seemed, well, there was the original path to buying this through the redevelopment committee. I get that fell through. They were going to buy it and lease it out, something. But the idea is to control the use of the building. I think it's a gorgeous building. It fits the purpose of the Community Preservation Act, I think. So I'm in favor of this. It comes with, what, 30 parking spaces also, and it's right in downtown. I mean, the 30 parking spaces, don't we always say lack of parking is an impediment to developing the downtown? So I think it's a golden opportunity. I don't know how much the building's worth. It's a gorgeous building, and I think it's important for the town to control its use. So, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, The motion has been to approve the $350,000 to buy the train station, the railroad station. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you keep your hands up so she can keep track of who did it. All right. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'm going to do that now. Okay, so all those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're past 7 to 6.
I need you to
Keep your hands up because she has to write. We want to put in the minutes who voted which way because we feel that the public has a right to know.
Steve's
Steve's a no.
Jody.
Jody,
Steve,
Roberta.
I didn't see your
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Jody, Steve.
Good, so I'm glad that you checked, okay.
Laura,
Okay,
John,
okay,
I wrote them down too, so we can double check each other.
okay, good. Okay, so the motion passed 7 to 6. All right, so, yay, Jamie's here. All right. Rehab the railroad station. So since the other one passed, otherwise this one would have been silly. You can't rehab something you don't own. All right, so is there a motion?
Motion to approve $350,000 for the rehab of the railroad station.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Bob. All right, is there any discussion? Steve?
Most of us were here, they got no plan on what they're doing, they're not showing us paperwork, we're gonna put $350,000 out there, and we're gonna hope they're gonna use it the right way. I'd like to see some paperwork before I can vote on this.
Okay, Peter?
And I'd also add that that building has been in disrepair for quite some time. I shudder to think the damage that's to the exterior as well as the interior of the building. I don't think that's even a reasonable number to repair that building. So for that reason, I wouldn't and I won't support this article because I think they're going to come in way under the cost estimate of what the potential there is. And I would also recommend, I actually publicly state that, again, this building is sitting there and no one's requested to purchase it. And I question why the Redevelopment Authority is not continuing to purchase this building. I went into their notes, their minutes, and some of the discussion that they had in their minutes doesn't reflect directly with what was discussed here the other night. So I don't think it's enough money they're asking for, and I don't think it would repair it. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Roberta?
My recollection is that there were major monies that were put into this building previously. There was the late Alice Petruzzo, I believe, was chairman of that committee. And I think it was like 1.5 million. I'm not sure exactly what it was to rehab it. And all the interior was done, the wood and so forth was rehabbed and everything.
And then
I don't think, I agree with the previous speaker that $350,000 is not going to do it. And I'm not so sure that we want all these things on the fire. I understand the architectural beauty of the building. I understand the stone construction of the building, and I too would like to see the building preserved. But the problem is you can't have everything. And you have to decide what's the most important thing for the community. How could we maybe figure this out in some other way? I don't know. I don't understand why the Redevelopment Authority, and someone mentioned previously that the Redevelopment Authority had discussed purchasing the building, but I'd like to know if the previous speaker that mentioned that they read their minutes, what their decision was, why they didn't do that.
Sure, if you know.
Not off the top of my head, there was some issues whether purchase and sales would be pursued according to their own minutes, and there was something they referred to a force issue. And the attorney representing them at the time, I don't think wanted to pursue the legal. It was starting to cost them some money legal work-wise, and I believe that they backed off due to that in itself. Now, again, that's not exactly I wasn't in on the meeting, all I can do is tell you what I read today.
So would we have the same legal issues?
I think I thought I heard that they backed out because they had a tenant who was going to be the prime tenant for the property, and that fell through. And so the whole project was based on having this one tenant, a restaurant or something. So that fell through. So this is another avenue to buy the building and preserve it. And from what they said the other night, the building is structurally in good shape, at least the exterior. The purpose of this money is to make it completely weatherproof so it doesn't continue to deteriorate. And again, the Community Preservation Committee, they have the money. It's a historic building. It certainly fits the use of those funds. So I'm in favor of it.
The list?
John wanted to talk, and then
Just, as Mr. Rock stated, that was the purpose. In the beginning, the redevelopment authority was never looking to own that building. That was something that was done at the time in conjunction with the board's or selectmen's request that they move forward when the legislation was pushed through. It was going to allow the town or the redevelopment authority to purchase it, but they never entered into this agreement and the process with any intent of ever owning it. They were acting as an agent to try and get it, work to try and get a tenant in there. And when the tenant found that they were not going to be getting all the tax breaks for the preservation of the historical preservation and whatnot, I believe that was the reason that was given the other night. One of the reasons they backed out was they were not going to get those tax breaks because they were going to be leasing it, not owning it. And they tried to do an accelerated plan with the lease to buy, and that's when they backed out. But I have the same concerns with the amount they have here. I was just very disappointed that we didn't really get anything other than it would be $350 to buy it, it would be $350 to fix the inside and make it so that it would be presentable to a tenant that might be looking to buy or lease so that they could build out. And quite frankly, if you look at the CPC's own guidelines for somebody coming to them looking for money from the CPC to do a project, they have quite an extensive process that you need to go through. And typically they're asking for a lot of detail on what you're going to do so that they can see what you're going to be doing with this money that they're going to recommend or not recommend for you to use. And to me, once you agreed to purchase the building, you can't let it deteriorate, but it just didn't seem to me that they were looking for the same amount of detail as they were for other projects. When it came to the train station, let's get it and keep it, because it is a beautiful building. It would be great to have it. They've had it out there for quite some time. It hasn't been purchased, and I would have preferred to have seen us go ahead and say, you know what, let our officials work with the state officials to push and try and get something that we could get this given back to us after the money that was put into it from the town, the people and the businesses or whatever that rehabbed it, and then the state let it go. So, I mean, that's something you got to think about. You've authorized buying it. This is now supposed to be to get it under some kind of repair, but I think you're just throwing a lot of money at that without knowing anything about what they're going to be doing.
Peter?
About that is, one of the concerns I have is the CPC has done a number of projects, and they have borrowed for a number of projects. I believe there's a limit. I don't know where they're at. I haven't seen any of the revenue sheets. But I also wonder if they're going to borrow for this, and they're going to continue to borrow. where's the point where we got to say that the town isn't in the real estate business? Now, it'd be great to own that building, and it'd be even super to have some private source using it and paying taxes. There's a nickel coming in. I don't think there's a quarter of revenue from that building, whether parking space or not. In fact, the parking spaces that we all think would be used to the town are currently used for trains and people taking off from Stoughton and going into Boston. So again, I don't support this project for a number of reasons, but the most, sorry, that just one, most being is that they're getting in way over their head and they have no real plan other than to hand it over or to support the purchase of it. And I would also mention that if you look at the redevelopment authority notes, there was a purchase and sales discussed. It wasn't about renting it. Thank you.
Okay, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're gonna buy the station, we gotta keep it weather tight. This is the beginning of keeping it weather tight. Also, that building, they didn't wanna go through with the historical tax credits because they didn't own the building up front. They were gonna do a lease, an option to rent, to buy over the 10 years. If we own the building now, that leaves that option on the table. The town could sell it to somebody, we could sell it to the redevelopment authority. Forrest sounded like he had a pretty good plan on what he was gonna do with this space. He even volunteered to be the project manager for this particular project, and that's what he does. So I think in this particular instance, this particular project is in good hands with Forrest in charge of spending this particular dollars for its purpose. And you gotta think beyond just what it is in the bigger scheme of the downtown development. We got the 30 spaces, which for now is good. Maybe we get the rest of the parking lot later. Maybe it ties into the post office in some other way. We do something else with that. It isn't just a standalone by itself for perpetuity in infinity. So you got to think beyond just what it is. There's other things in the works downtown, and this could all tie in together with that.
Okay. The motion is on the table to approve the $350,000. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And keep your hands up. Okay. You got them? Okay, she's gonna, you know, why don't you say the name so they can put their hand down? So she's got Christine, go ahead.
No, I'm actually going the other way, so I need to know who doesn't want it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so who doesn't want it? Okay. So that'll work out well. Steve and Jody. Okay, and this way it will be in the minutes, so if anybody wants to look, they'll be able to see who voted how. Okay. All right, so Jamie's here, so Jamie?
What was the final count?
What was the final count?
9 in favor, 4 against.
We had we made you come, I'm really sorry, but we put off question number 4 till you got here. So we are now at the end, and this will be the last one. So our question was, you changed the number, but you didn't change the numbers here, so we didn't know how the numbers were supposed to change.
And which one is that? Sorry. That's the,
Yeah.
Microphone.
We can't hear you.
what article is it? Sorry.
4.
Okay, 4, the fiber optic. Here, we'll give you one.
This is the one that was originally at 40. You said it should have been 50. It
50.
came in at 47.5.
Yeah.
But the breakdown that was given was 30 and 10.
And so we just didn't know what you were going to change.
Yeah.
Probably could have texted you, sorry.
Yeah.
We were texting. But what we had done with the Board of Selectmen, I had put in 40,000 for the fiber optic cables and, you know, kept the 10,000 for the estimated hardware. So we increased, you know, the cables when Ryan and I sat down, and then that transfer didn't get over to this one. So that's why you guys saw the 40,000 and not the 50. He came in with an estimate after the fact of 47.5, so I would assume that the additional 7,500 would go into the 30,000.
So it would go
So
into
it'd
the
be 37.
30,000?
Yeah, 37.5 and 10.
So the 7,005 is good, so now it's going to be 37.5.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
That's all we didn't know.
Yeah, that's all we didn't know, I'm sorry. I probably could have texted you.
You could have texted that, I would have passed it on.
I thought it would be hard to get it into a text as to what we wanted. Okay. All right, so I need a motion for number 4.
I have a question.
Yes.
The fiber optic network, when we negotiated the contract for cable with Comcast, Comcast was responsible for installing a fiber optic network to all town buildings, including the school department, police department, fire department, et cetera. It's in the contract.
Yes.
So my question then is this: have we still utilized the Cable Advisory Committee, or who's negotiating the contract with our cable provider in order to have something like this paid for by the cable company? Because when you pay your cable bill, you're paying for them to do these kinds of things in the town.
I thought
You have
that
to negotiate these things.
question came up
It did.
during the hearing, and I thought the answer was that the parts that they negotiated were done, but this particular part was not covered by what was negotiated.
Well, I was
Is
on
that,
the,
am I correct? Does anybody else remember? That's
To a
pretty much
certain
what I heard,
extent.
Yeah.
And they also said, once the contract is done and it's met, it's very difficult to try and go back and have them renegotiate it, and the utility,
They
the
have to
public utility tends to go along with that. This is sending fiber optics to the water towers. The water towers were not a part of the public buildings that were on the list
that's
of
correct.
what would be fed.
That's
And
correct.
and that's the disconnect, is that it didn't include any other, it didn't include anything like the water towers that might have been used in
No,
the
it
future.
didn't include the water towers, but
But what Michael mentioned the other night, what Mr. Hartman said was that if you go to the public utilities or what have you, you get the crack when you sign the contract with them to come into town. After that, it's very difficult to get anything like this added in.
then I guess
It
that's...
doesn't mean it's impossible, but that was the answer that was given.
All right, then just part of my question would be this: rather than spending these monies, which may be well spent to do this because of the water towers and so forth, do we have a committee, a cable committee that's actually working on things like this and trying to negotiate? Because when you pay your cable bill, you're paying a certain amount of money that's supposed to go toward upgrading certain things in the town. It's part of the bill, it's built in there. So we should get our money's worth.
And
So that's my problem. Do we have a cable committee?
I wouldn't know.
It is one of the,
They have to by
there's a
law.
advisory committee, but I don't know that there's any, they've had trouble in the past appointing people to it, from what I recall.
Well, everybody resigned at one point.
Yeah, everybody resigned at one point, and they've never really refilled it.
By law, they're supposed to hold a meeting once a year to hear complaints of all cable subscribers that might have them.
This is probably
They're
better directed
also
to
supposed to be
selectmen.
Because, yeah.
negotiating, like if it's a 10-year contract, every 10 years, they go in, and Mr. Hewitt from Copeland and Page, he was the attorney that's the expert in this particular thing, and he also helped to negotiate the last contract. So my point is are we utilizing all the committees that we have in town, or the committee that we have in town, that might be able to get something out of these public utilities?
I mean, you have to ask the Board of Selectmen that one.
Right, and okay, so
Well,
I'm
then
writing it
that's
down.
something that the Board of Selectmen should be keeping an eye on, and the town manager.
The cable committee. Okay, I will check on that for you, and I will get back to you.
Elliot might have some.
Elliot, do you have something on that?
Since we are negotiating something in and above the previous contract with the cable company, why does this have to go with the cable company? Why can't it be done on a bid basis with Verizon? We got fiber optic Verizon, we got Fios in this town. I got it, and we got the cable. So if this is a new system that's going to be added to the existing system, there's certainly no reason it can't be interfaced. They're both fiber optic, both carried the same way. Why does it have to be specifically with the cable company? Why can't there be a competitive process with Verizon?
I don't believe the cable company was the person going to be doing it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like those are questions that probably this committee cannot answer and probably should have been brought up at the hearing. So I don't know what to say.
It was brought up.
It was brought up, yeah, okay. But it's a good point. Peter?
Well, this is the one thing that was the article that was talked about being a safety issue, in particular down in the Plain Street and Bay Street area, that safety for radios have become an issue. I think that the suggestion we're talking about at the advisory committee for the cable can be something that we maybe see going forward with any new buildings. They also said this equipment would be transferable, and of course I'm going to be in favor of anything that's going to help in the safety aspects. And again, because the equipment can be used, I think it's something that we should all look at supporting. And it's a good time now to discuss having that committee going forward with new buildings that are potentially coming here. Thank you.
Okay, Steve?
My problem with it is written, I'd like to see it rewritten so that we could get this thing started, is that it's going to go to the old police station. We don't know where the police station's going to be, so I would think if they could rewrite it, just to wire everything and get it ready till they know where the police station is going, that would make sense. But to run it to the police station now would be just as ridiculous as passing Article 6 to get something all ready for something that's not going to go there. So.
John?
Well, that was raised during the hearing. And the answer was, whether you did, and not to get them mixed, whether central dispatch was done or not, this was a requirement just to get their communication system working throughout the town and getting rid of the dead spots. Now, the question was asked about the installation, because somebody asked who's going to maintain it and everything. The same company, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me, it's going to be the same company maintaining this that maintains our streetlights. That was the company that's going to be under contract. It was clearly indicated that the communication was needed regardless of whether the central dispatch went in. They need this to upgrade the system they have now. It's not transferring anything. They told you if the fiber was run here, if we use that building for the town, that's how you would continue to get your money's worth from running the fiber to the old police station. If they did something with the building, whether they got rid of it, if it's not going to be town-owned, then yeah, whatever money you're putting in would be gone. But it had nothing to do with the central dispatch going in there or not. And you can't wait 2 years to say, we'll go to a new building and do it. I'm in favor of this because the way they explained it, at least my recollection was, this was something that was needed to improve the communication now to get rid of the dead spots that they had, and that even though it's going in this way, it's for the public safety, because it's also going to be, it's going to be going to the fire station, to the police station, but fire and the EMS would also be able to jump on that network as well. So I'm in favor of going ahead with this once we get to the motion to actually discuss the article.
We had that motion yet. Yep, we have not done that yet. Okay, so I do need a motion. We kind of jumped the gun here, so.
I move that we go with the recommendation for the $47,500.
Okay, Peter seconds. Okay, so we kind of discussed it. Anybody else want to discuss? We good? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 I abstain.
Okay, so anybody no? All right, so there's just one abstention. Okay, so that finishes it. All we have to do is do the minutes now. Okay? Was there any changes to the minutes? We all got it in the little package. Did anybody have any?
I have a, I do
September
have, I
17th.
do have a comment.
Okay.
I can get to them.
She does a very good job.
I want to get back, there was, well, not so much a correction, but I want to make sure, it's just a, oh, all right, I just mentioned that if it's on, what's numbered is page 1, and that's why I said I wanted to check, and you have it in there, so that's why I wanted to check. I don't have a comment on it because it is there. That's, I was just looking to check something, but that was in there.
Okay.
It's required, not just who's here, but who's up. I couldn't remember.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
By John. Who's second? Joe. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, good. All right, that pretty much does it. Yay, that was fast.
Motion?
Huh? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn by Peter and seconded by John. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Great, thank you all for coming and helping. The discussions were very good. Really appreciate it.